Next thing that I would like to show you, so if I'm looking at my Science Kit 14, the next step is it's time to get dirty. Now I have to tell you, I already went out and I collected my soil samples, so that's not part of my video. But what you'll need to do for your soil investigation is collect soil samples from the outside. Now, if you have a yard, you can collect soil from a couple of places in your yard. If you don't have access to your own yard, maybe you live in an apartment and they don't want you to dig up the grass or whatever, you could ask a friend or a neighbor if you could get a little bit of soil. Or hopefully, if you knew that you didn't have an easy way to dig up a little bit of soil, you got a sample from school because we had some buckets with the soil sitting out there at Friday's pickup. So hopefully, one way or another, you're going to have at least one sample. It'd be great if you could have two so you can do some comparisons. But if you only have one, you can totally still do this activity. All right. Remember, you don't need a whole giant bunch of soil. I think I actually collected more than I needed to. Just a couple of spoonfuls is plenty to do your soil observation. So for soil sample number 1, I want you in your science notebook. So you're going to just turn to the next page from your KWL. As a matter of fact, you can do this on the back of that same page. For soil sample number 1, you're going to draw a picture in your science notebook about where you collected your soil. And you're going to label it. Remember, scientists, we need to make sure we label things. So I'm going to write here, soil sample 1. And I collected both of my soil samples in front of my house. One of them, I got some soil from the area that used to be our lawn. We let our lawn die, and it's mostly weeds, but we also made a pumpkin patch out there. And those are kind of, they don't like the cold, so they're kind of all done growing now, but the dirt's still there. Okay, so I have soil sample 1 and 2. So let's see, soil sample 1 I got from my pumpkin patch. Let's see if I can draw what my pumpkin patch looked like. These are supposed to be my pumpkin vines and leaves. I harvested all the pumpkins off of them. So it's just, the vines are still out there. So on this one, this is where I got my soil sample. Right here at this end of that one. Let's see, what was growing there? So I have pumpkin vines. And I have some weeds, and there's still some grass there. It's not very nice looking grass because we don't keep it mowed. But what else did I notice? I didn't notice a whole lot because it was dark already. But probably when you collect your soil, do it in the daylight so you can see if you notice any animals living in the habitat. Now, soil sample 2. I collected from one of my raised beds. So here's my raised bed, here's the bark down at the ground, and I collected that soil from right there. And I noticed, let's see, okay, what was growing there? I have some tomato plants growing there. Let's see, and there's a nasturtium plant. And there's actually an eggplant. The eggplant plant is not real happy with the cold weather. Okay, so after you've done this, you've collected your samples, you've documented where you collected your soil samples. Now it's time to take a look at your soil. So that's the purpose for this blank piece of white paper. I'm going to take, let's see, that's number 2. This is soil sample number 1. I'm going to just sprinkle that out on my paper. Now you might want an extra pencil or maybe some plastic utensils to kind of move your soil around, or you could use your hands, whatever you prefer. If you kind of don't want to get dirty, then you can use something to help you. So this is interesting. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but there's a piece of hair in my soil. That's kind of funny. And let's see what else I can find in here. I wonder if you can see this. Let's see if I can zoom in right there on that. Do you see what this is right here? I am pretty sure that looks like a root to me. You can kind of see there's smaller pieces of the roots. That's so interesting. So there's roots in my soil. This is a tiny leaf. Let's see if I can get it to, there we go. There's a little leaf that was in my soil. And I notice, let's see, I notice that my soil is really dark. It's not quite black, but it's a very dark brown. And it feels, so when I touch it, it feels cold. And this piece is a little bit sticky. Do you see how it kind of mushes together? Let's see. Whoops, am I on the camera? See how it's kind of mushing together a little bit like clay. So the natural soil in my yard does have some clay in it. That's interesting. But it is pretty crumbly. When I put my fingers on it, it kind of, not all of it sticks together, right? Just there's like that piece that stuck together. Ooh, I found a rock. Here's a rock. So here's, let's see, here's my clay piece right here, and here's my leaf, and here's my rock. Let's see. Let me zoom back out so you can see. There we go. So here's my clay and my leaf and my rock, and here's my root. So that's really interesting. I wonder what my soil smells like. Let me smell it. Well, it's going to sound funny, but I mean, it just smells like dirt. You know, some soil might smell like the plants that grow in it. So that's, or it might, you might recognize a smell other than just dirt. Okay. So I'm going to write those observations down in my science notebook. And then we can check out my soil sample number 2. So I'm going to put this back. Okay. Here is soil sample number 2. Now, you can see right away that this soil sample has more organic matter in it. So there's a piece of bark, and there's a pine needle. Here's a leaf. It has a lot more plant matter in it. So that's interesting. This is the soil that was from my raised bed. So it doesn't have any of the natural soil that was here. This is in the beds we built in May. Frankie's dad built them in May, and we had to buy soil to put in there to grow our plants. And you notice it's very dark, but it's, I'm not seeing, as I touch it, I'm not coming up with anything that feels like clay. So that's really interesting. Let's see, what does it smell like? This smells, I mean, it smells like dirt, but you know that there's a definitely a difference. It smells more planty. I'm not sure, that's a funny word, planty. It just smells like it has more living things in it. Does that make sense? I don't know. All right. So friends, after you have examined your soil samples, you're going to make notes in your notebook about, you know, what color, what did it smell like, how does it feel when you touch it? Did you notice anything that seemed like it might be clay, or did it feel really muddy or sticky? You can use all kinds of adjectives, all kinds of descriptive words to describe your soil. Now, if it works better for you to draw pictures, that's great too. I would love to hear your words as well, but I know some of my friends really do great at drawing. So you can do one, the other, or both. Okay? All right, and then let's see. You could also, if you do have at least 2 samples, you could make some notes and compare them. So I noticed in my soil samples that the one from the ground had clay in it, and the one from my raised bed didn't have anything that felt like clay. And the one from the raised bed had more organic matter than the one from the ground. So make those notes in your science notebook, and you can also go to the Google form and fill that in. And then you want to make sure you put your soil samples back where you got them, right? And make sure, if you've got a dirty piece of paper like I do here, make sure you clean up wherever you were working so that your adults don't have to clean up after you, okay? Let's see. So put your soil samples back, clean up any mess, and then this is really an important part of what we're doing. Think about the connection between soil and plants. We know that roots are the part of the plant that are under the soil. What do you think is happening under there? How do roots and soil, I found a typo. How do roots and soil work together to create a healthy plant? Write or draw your ideas in your science notebook. So use all of the stuff we have learned this year in our garden science classes. I know a lot of you have learned so much about plant anatomy and tree anatomy. So try and remember what you learned about what roots do when you try and answer this question, how soil and plants work together. Okay. That is it for now, garden friends. I hope you have a chance to get outside this week. I know it's going to be a little bit rainy, but if you dress for the weather, you can still get outside and enjoy nature. You know, rainy days are the best days to look for earthworms. Remember to be really gentle if you do handle any of our earthworm friends, and put them in a safe place, like off of the sidewalk, so that nobody steps on them, okay? All right, garden friends, have a great week.